Good morning. Today is the 22nd of Sivan, the 11th of June. And Sunday we're starting the new Parsha, which is Parshat Shelach, which means send, or send as a messenger. And this is one of the most difficult sections of the Torah, both in terms of the outcome and in terms of the understanding the narrative itself. What in the world is really going on here? So we have this strange situation where Moses is told by God, you should send people to scout the land of Canaan. And the operative word is scout. It doesn't mean to spy. Latur means to scout. And it means to sort of do not what's called a tactical type of analysis of the land, trying to figure out from where should we attack or anything like that. It's a strategic type of analysis. And that's why Moses chose people who are described as all being princes or kings again. This word nasi shows up again. And to understand the frame of mind that he had, we have to think about someone who would be called a king. What type of level of analysis would someone like that do? That's not the type of person that you would send to do low-level or detailed analysis. Somebody who works at those levels, who is in charge of tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people, their thinking is like we said, it's strategic. It's looking at things from a bigger bird's eye view. And so the commentaries say that based on all this, what was going on really was that, as we learn later in Deuteronomy, the people had asked Moses to send scouts out to visit the land, and in a certain sense, it could have been that Moses agreed or he didn't agree, but he was hoping really that they would give up on this idea. But it didn't happen. And they kept badgering him about it until eventually he must have turned to God, and God told him, okay, if you want to, you can send them and send these people. So again, Moses pushed the direction to be like a strategic analysis, like what kind of land is this? And we're going to get deeper into this as we go through the week. What the core question is here, and why it backfired so badly. Like what actually went wrong. So he sends them, these people, and we said they're scouts, and right away he senses that something's wrong, because he changes Joshua's name from what it was before, which is Hosea, into Joshua. He adds the letter Yud to the beginning of his name. And Rashi says the reason he added this Yud was because he felt that there was something amiss with these people that he had chosen, and he wanted to save Joshua from their machinations. And he calls them, in their machinations, he calls them already spies. He says that they're already converted in their mind from being scouts to being spies, and they've changed the purpose of the mission, meaning they're not of the same mind as Moses is. So again, Moses wanted the land, he sort of wanted to release the tension with the people who really wanted to send scouts out. They wanted to know what the land was about, what it's like, and so on and so forth. And there was obviously an undercurrent of people who wanted the land to be spied on, not just to be scouted out. Meaning there were people who were interested in figuring out whether it was possible to actually conquer this land. Now Moses didn't believe in this, because he was no part to this, because he felt that God had promised them that they would be able to conquer this land no matter what. It would be miracles, it would be all kinds of things. But in the end, Moses had to agree, both to release the tension and also because there is a principle here that even when you are promised miracles, you should not count on them. Meaning you should do your due diligence and figure out what it is you're getting yourself into. So even if you're not going to go for the details, and not go into the very, very detailed structure of what each nation in this land is like and how you're going to conquer them and so on, but you have to have a general picture of what it's about. So he was willing to do that. But like I said, right away he feels that something's going on, because he has to change Joshua's name, and that's a way of changing his mazel, if you want to call it that, and that he's going to have assistance from above, not to become part of the machinations of the other scouts. Now, there's a question here of why he needs to send 12. But this question itself is already part of the answer, or gives part of the answer of why Moses even went along with this. Why do you need 12 scouts? It would have been enough to send 2 or 3, maybe just 1. If you don't trust one person's judgment, okay, send 2. If you're not sure that they're going to agree, send 3. But why do you need to send 12? And specifically, he sent 1 from each tribe. Now, this is an idea that I came across. First time I came across it was when I was about 23, 24. I was after the army, and I went to study in some yeshiva in the old city. And there was this genius there who had spent about 2 or 3 years building a catalog of where each tribe had its allotted lands, and building a catalog of all the terrain, all the cities, everything that he could find about each inheritance, each portion. And his theory was, based on this parsha, and subsequently I've seen it written by many early commentaries also, that each tribe was given an area of the land of Israel which is best suited to its particular traits. Meaning, and this is something that is very, maybe naturally we think this way, but we don't talk about it so much, that living in a certain area of the world, living in a certain type of terrain, certain type of climate, certain type of weather, and so on, the type of land, what you can do with it, whether it's rocky or hilly, the topography, all that has to fit the person's character. This is based on a very strong association between character and land, that the two go together. In a certain sense, the land is to a people the way a body is to the soul. And so they have to fit. So if you live in, for instance, Tennessee, so that means that at some level, your body is suited to that type of land. And the sages say this in the Talmud. They say that in the end of days, towards the end of this reality that we're living in right now, there will be something called the favor of the land in the eyes of its occupants. Chen makom al yoshvav. There will be a certain grace that only the people that live in a certain area will be able to understand, and they will feel a particular attachment to where they live. And, this is very interesting because there's this whole movement from rural areas to urban areas. And you have to ask the question, does that still hold? When people move into an urban area, do they still? But even urban areas are situated in a certain type of climate, in a certain type of place. And there's no doubt that when you look, for instance, at the United States, you see that the states are different in the type of people that they attract. And you can say it's all politics. It's just we follow whatever we believe in, and we go to places that we believe in. But it's not just that. It has something to do with the inclinations that each person has. So the same thing was true about the land of Israel. So he had to send 12 scouts, each one representing one of the tribes, to look at their particular parcel and to judge it, to see where it would be best for them to set up their tribe, what is most fitting for them. So there's this interesting idea again that even though in the end we'll see at the end of the book of Numbers that the parcels were determined by what seemed to be like a raffle, but this raffle was really, in the end, a application or a manifestation of what the people already had in their minds. That they already saw that this is my place. And in that sense, we have this beautiful concept from the sages that says that in whatever direction a person wants to take his life, whatever direction it is, from heaven they agree. Meaning, in the end, the free will is so strong that you get to choose where you're going to go. A lot of people feel that like they're lost, that they're fighting against so many things. That always is true. There's always hardships in life. But you get to determine the direction that you want to go in, and that includes even, for instance, where you want to live, and how you're going to live, and what your life is going to focus on. These are things that in the end are left up to the individual. And in the heavens they just say, amen. They just agree with it. And they allow you to pursue whatever path you want to pursue, so that at the end of your life you don't come and you say, well, there were no options. He says, no, on the contrary. Not only do we agree with it, but the raffle at the end of the book of Numbers will show that it was predetermined by the people what parcel of land they would actually receive. And it was predetermined in such a state, or in such a sense, that everything that God did was just to sort of sign off on it and say, okay, you're going to receive exactly what you wanted. There's a long story about this that we're not going to get into now, with the tribes of Joseph, Ephraim and Manasseh, actually having parts of the land that they continued to frequent even while they were still in Egypt. They still had ties to certain areas, and we'll actually see this in the continuation of the book of Numbers, that their descendants went out to conquer those lands which they considered to be their hereditary lands, that were not even part of the call it the initial borders of what the Holy Land was supposed to include. The final thing I want to note, and this is a huge topic, a very interesting topic, one that is very controversial, and I kind of debated about whether I should mention it or not, but the more controversial is, there's actually more chance that I will mention it. At the very end of the first reading, we hear that Caleb, who was the scout from the tribe of Judah, he went up by himself to Hebron, which is where the cave of the patriarchs is, and what did he do there? So we don't know. It just says, the Torah just says that he went to Hebron. It doesn't even mention him by name. It just says one of them went up to Hebron. We have the tradition that it was Caleb. This was part of his inheritance. Hebron is in the lands allotted to the tribe of Judah. We're talking about. I'm sorry. This is actually the beginning of tomorrow's reading, but we're not going to have time for it tomorrow, so we'll do it today. It's Numbers 13:22. So he went up to Hebron. What did he do there? What did he do at the cave of the patriarchs? Again, it doesn't mention the cave explicitly. He went to pray there. That's what Rashi says. He went to pray there and to ask for the protection of the patriarchs. Now, this brings up a whole topic about how does Judaism treat those who have already passed on. Is there any kind of connection? What can they do? Can you even visit graves? What does that mean? Because Judaism is very much against anything that has to do with ancestor worship, as you would find in Japan or in the Far East. Very much against calling upon spirits. All these things are considered to be completely forbidden. So what exactly is this, to go to a cave and to pray there? So the simple explanation, and without getting into the controversial aspects, is that when you go there, you come and you say, since there are righteous men and women buried here, I pray to you, God, in their merit, that you should grant my prayers. And that's the simplest, cleanest way to do this. However, and that's where the controversy comes in. It's well known that the Lubavitcher Rebbe didn't leave New York, and he was questioned by a great number of people why he wouldn't make Aliyah to the land of Israel, and he gave all kinds of answers over the years. But there was one person who was very determined to figure out the real answer, and he really questioned him many times, all the times he was there, and he was there quite a number of times. His name was Rabbi Shlomo Goren. He was a chief rabbi of the army, and I think he was actually a chief rabbi of all of Israel at some point. It's probably when I was a young child, so I don't remember him so well. And he said that over the many times that he visited the Rebbe, in the end the Rebbe said, "I'll give you the real answer." And the real answer, he said, is because I can't leave where my father-in-law is buried. I have to be near him. Why? Because it's well known that the Rebbe used to go to, he frequented his father-in-law's burial site, which is where he's buried now. He frequented it at least once a week, sometimes even twice a week, 3 times a week. And he would come back with answers to all kinds of questions. Now, exactly what is the process and how does it work? And what does it exactly mean that a person can come back with answers about questions, spiritual questions, even mundane questions, from the burial site of a tzaddik, of a righteous person? That will have to leave for a very, very different opportunity. It's a very complex topic. And how does it not become what we just said about like spirit worship or some kind of connecting to the spirit world, and what exactly does that mean? So but I'm just saying that this whole issue is raised in what I just saw is actually the beginning of the second reading, and hopefully we'll continue tomorrow. I hope to see everyone tomorrow.
Thank you, Rabbi.